name is Pastor Kendra Thompson. I am Minister of Children and Family Life at St. Paul Lutheran Church in Davenport, Iowa. And I have my friend Aubrey Barnes, or Aubs, with me today. Hi, Aubrey. And Aubrey has come to St. Paul before to do some education with Bible school and Sunday school around performance poetry and the Bible. But there's so much more to who you are. So I'm wondering, Aubrey, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to lately.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks again, Kendra, for letting me be a part of this. But as Kendra said, my name's Aubrey. My students that I work at the school I work at with, they call me Mr. Aubrey, so whichever is fine. But yeah, I do a lot of stuff like as a creative and educator. Like I have a passion for creating things that kind of provoke people in thought towards like change in a compassionate way, and also just creating art that like makes people think differently about art. So anything that I create, first and foremost, poetry. I also do music and also like story writing as well. So anything that like encompasses creating is something that I love doing and have a passion for. So that's just what I do, and also teach it.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the school where you teach?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I work as a para educator at a Camelot Therapeutic Day School, which is a school for kids who like have been through like really like bad situations early in their life, and they have like a lot of things, a lot of pains and hurts that they need people to pay attention to and need like healing from. So a part of my job is just to be with these kids every weekday and kind of help them academically as they need, but also help them with like their feelings and how to like process their feelings and how to like kind of take their feelings and create something good out of them, and not allowing them to kind of take them in a bad place that would kind of like bring more hurt to them and people around them. So it's a fun job. I like being able to work with the students that I have, and they're really like smart students and very like aware of themselves. So it's a blessing to work with them for sure.
That's wonderful. And you're going to read a Bible story for us today?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm actually going to read one about children, which I think is like fitting. Again,
and we can find that on page, what page
329, page 329.
In the Spark Story Bible. Well, great. Why don't you go ahead and read it for us?
Mm-hmm. So the story is titled, Jesus Blesses the Children. Jesus traveled all over the land, telling people about the good news of God's love. One day, Jesus was talking to a large crowd. It seemed that there was always a crowd. The children had to stand on their tiptoes or sit on their parents' shoulders just to see Jesus. People were everywhere on the grassy hill, laughing and smiling and waiting for Jesus to tell them more about God. God loves you and you and you, Jesus said. He wants you to love other people too. One mom said, I want my children to hear what Jesus is saying. Other parents wanted their children to hear Jesus too. They moved closer and put their children down on the grass. One small boy tugged on the corner of Jesus' robe, and Jesus turned around. Ah, Jesus said, smiling, and he bent down to hold the hands of the children standing nearby. But the disciples scolded the parents. What do you think you're doing? Jesus is too important and too busy to talk to these children. Move your children back. When Jesus heard the disciples say these words, he stood up and turned back to the grown-ups. What do you mean? Jesus said to the disciples. These children are as important to me as you are. I want to bend down and look into their eyes and tell them about God's love too. Never stop anyone from coming to see me, especially children. Let the children come sit on my knee. Children like these are part of God's big family too. Then Jesus knelt down to look each child in the eye. Come sit with me, Jesus said, and I will tell you about the love of God, my Father. Jesus sat on the grass with all the children and told all of the girls and boys about God and God's family. Then Jesus put his hand on every girl's head and every boy's head and blessed them, saying, remember, God and I love you just the way you are. Then Jesus stood up and said to all of the grown-ups, remember my words. Whoever does not love God like a child won't be a part of God's family. And that's the end of the story.
Wonderful. Thank you, Aubrey. Do you have a question for us to think about in response to this story?
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually a question at the end of the story that actually like made me think a lot. So I think it's a good one for a lot of us to kind of sit with, honestly. And that question is, how would you have felt if you had been one of the children Jesus talked to in the story? So being able to take that moment and just really kind of think about that and think about how like loved you possibly would have felt in that moment. I think that's a good question to just sit with, actually.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much. And thank you, boys and girls. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you again.